When a man is already involved with someone else but won't say it, sometimes a man won't tell you he's already with someone else. He won't say it directly. He may even deny it with conviction. But language doesn't lie. The body doesn't lie. And neither do the words not if you listen closely. This isn't about paranoia or seeing betrayal around every corner. It's about learning to see and hear with emotional maturity and courage. Because the most dangerous kind of blindness is the one born from fear. Fear of losing someone you love. How many times have you whispered to yourself, "It can't be true. Maybe I'm overreacting. He's just stressed. Maybe I'm the problem." But no, very often, what you feel is real. Because the heart senses what the mind hasn't yet processed. Because the soul always knows. And sometimes consciously or not, a man starts saying things like, "I need space. I want to be alone for a while. It's not you, it's me. I'm confused. I don't know what I want. I need to find myself again." These phrases sound gentle. They sound introspective, mature, but often they're nothing more than a smokescreen, a graceful disguise for a truth already written in silence. He's no longer with you, and in many cases, he's already with someone else. Not every man who utters these words is being unfaithful, but many who are say exactly these things, and that's the difference. A man who truly loves you doesn't confuse you. A man who genuinely wants you doesn't put you on hold. A man who is still with you doesn't slowly disappear without explanation. And a man who respects you doesn't play games while his heart has already left the room. You can feel it in the silence, in the way his eyes avoid yours, in the laugh that no longer echoes with yours. You feel it in how his phone suddenly becomes more important than your word, in how there's no more time, no more effort, no more little gestures. And you start to ask yourself, when did everything change? He says, nothing happened, but something did. He won't say it aloud, because that would mean admitting it's over, and he's not ready to lose the comfort, not ready to face the consequences. So he tries to keep you, but only halfway, while his heart drifts elsewhere, chasing new excitement, comparing, lying to himself. And slowly you begin to dim your light. You try harder to be fun. You avoid conflict. You forgive things you never would have tolerated before. You justify the unjust, all out of fear. Fear of losing him. Fear of being alone. Fear of confirming what deep down you already know. But listen to me. When someone leaves you emotionally, they're already gone. Even if he still sleeps beside you. Even if he kisses you mechanically. Even if he says, "I love you" more out of habit than truth. You do not deserve lukewarm love. You do not deserve love out of pity or convenience or routine. You deserve a love that's brave. A love that shows up fully, clearly, without hesitation. Someone who doesn't need to figure it out when you've already given everything. Because every time you hear, "I need space" or "I'm confused," and you excuse it, you drift further away from yourself. You betray your own knowing. You make yourself smaller. So let me say what maybe no one else has told you lately. You are worth so much more than what you're currently accepting. You are not here to be an option, not here to beg for presence or explain someone's absence. You are here to be chosen freely, clearly, with love, not with hesitation. And if he's already with someone else, you will know. Not by what he says, but by what he no longer says. Not by what he does, but by what he no longer does. By how his soul no longer reaches for yours. Don't search for obvious signs. Instead, listen to yourself. Observe, not with paranoia, but with clarity. Your intuition isn't crazy. It's shaped by love and also by pain. And if you recognize yourself in these words, maybe now is the time to pause. To stop chasing someone who's already on another path. To stop waiting for answers where there is only silence. To close the door, not in anger, but with dignity before it's slammed in your face. Because when a man repeats these phrases, when he avoids, evades, and entangles you, he has likely already made a decision. And you have every right and every power to make one too. Being alone is not a failure, but being poorly accompanied, that is. Sometimes it's not what he says, but how he says it. Sometimes it's not his words that reveal the truth, but the way he says them, the tone, the distance in his eyes, the coldness that wraps itself around every syllable. Because when someone truly loves you, you feel it even in the middle of a storm. But when someone's heart has already gone elsewhere, he begins to empty himself. He withdraws his gestures, his warmth, his presence, his meaningful words, and eventually he begins to drain you too. You feel alone even while lying beside him. And that, my dear, is one of the most painful forms of loneliness. To feel abandoned while someone is still physically next to you. It's like screaming inside an empty house, like knocking on a door no one opens anymore. And right now, I want you to say something to yourself softly if you need to. I don't deserve to be with someone who doesn't even want to be here. Sometimes he doesn't walk away, but his soul has already gone. His body remains, but his spirit is long gone. He becomes like a ghost sleeping next to you. Someone who once touched you with tenderness now touches you with detachment. Someone who once craved your presence now barely notices when you leave the room. And he says nothing, admits nothing. But you know, because some truths aren't spoken, they're felt through silence, through absence, through a sudden chill in the air between you. I'm confused. I'm going through a hard time. I just don't want to talk right now. And that's when the real trap begins. You become an emotional detective. You start checking his phone. You wonder who he's texting. You question if that coworker is really just a coworker. You live on high alert. Suspicion becomes your shadow. Doubt becomes your constant companion. And that is not love. That's anxiety. Healthy love doesn't make you feel paranoid. It doesn't make you compete, shrink, or second-guess your worth. It doesn't leave you wondering if you're still enough. When a man is emotionally invested in another woman, you feel it. Not just in the physical distance, but in the emotional absence. The absence of desire. And not just sexual desire, but the desire to see you, to hear you, to know you, to care when something hurts you. When that desire is gone, when all that's left are excuses, vague words, and a cold kind of silence, he's already gone. And sometimes he'll even tell himself he still loves you, but he doesn't. He's stuck between guilt and the thrill of something new, because the new feels exciting, entertaining, distracting. But you are not new. You are deep, and that doesn't make you any less. That makes you more than he's capable of seeing. Because depth requires courage. It requires emotional presence. It demands commitment. And if he can't offer that, then you're not losing anything. You're saving yourself. Don't try to keep alive a relationship that only exists in your memory. Don't breathe into a love that has no oxygen left. Don't stay where your soul can no longer bloom. You were not born to beg for love, not to chase it, not to plead for attention. You were born to be chosen, freely, completely, with presence and clarity. And if he's already with someone else, be grateful you're seeing it now. Be grateful for the clarity. Because a painful truth is better than a life built on beautiful lies. A woman who truly loves herself does not settle for maybe. She doesn't stay in limbo. She doesn't place her heart on hold, waiting to be chosen. You are not here to wait. You are here to live. With dignity, with self-respect, with courage. And if it hurts today, then let it hurt. Cry if you need to. Scream if you must. But don't stay stuck in a place that's already forgotten how to love you. Because on the other side of this pain is your freedom. And yes, freedom might ache at first, but it is also the medicine your soul needs. And do you know what the worst thing you could do right now is? Waiting. Waiting for him to change. Waiting for him to go back to who he used to be. Trying to repair something already broken beyond repair. No, my love, don't do that. Don't destroy yourself, trying to save what he's already tearing apart. Don't destroy yourself trying to save something he's already letting fall apart. Don't shrink, bend, or reshape yourself to fit into a heart that has already taken on a new shape. Because even if he comes back, if he hasn't changed, he'll hurt you again. Remember this. Excuses aren't love. Absence isn't love. Confusion isn't love. Real love shows up. It is felt. It is lived. It is clear. And if you don't feel it, don't settle for guessing. You deserve a love that doesn't hide behind vague words. A love that doesn't disappear in silence. A love that doesn't need space to figure out if you matter. You deserve an I love you without hesitation. And I want to be with you that's proven through action. You deserve someone whose I'm here actually means something. And if you feel he's already with another woman, even if he denies it, even if he swears with steady eyes that it isn't true, trust what you feel. You don't need evidence. You don't need a confession. You don't need anyone else's confirmation. Your intuition already knows. Because when someone no longer wants to be with you, they don't always say it. Sometimes they pretend everything is fine, but emotionally, they've already left. And that's the cruelest part. He stays physically, but his soul is gone. Sometimes he's already with someone else emotionally, if not physically. But he hasn't left yet because you are still his safe place, his emotional comfort zone, the one he leans on while he quietly explores something new. And that hurts because you become a shadow of yourself, an option, not a choice. Someone who's already chosen someone else begins justifying their shift with vague explanations. I just don't feel the same. I need to figure things out. I don't know if I'm ready for a relationship. But somehow he's ready to send secret messages, ready to meet someone else, ready to chase the thrill while you stay on pause. It's hard to say out loud, but even harder to live inside a lie, harder to hold on to something with no ground beneath it. So remember this deeply. You are not here to wait while someone else decides if you're worth staying for. When someone leaves emotionally, everything he says becomes a delay of the inevitable, a way to avoid looking like the bad guy. But in doing so, he traps you in a half-truth. And you don't need half-truths. You deserve the whole truth, even if it hurts. Because a painful truth is still healthier than a beautiful, comforting lie. And do you know how you know he's already with someone else? Even if he never says it? By his emotional absence, by the sudden irritability, by how easily he loses patience, by the way he no longer listens with presence, how he forgets the things that matter to you, how careless he's become with the small details he once noticed effortlessly, and most of all, by the way he looks at you without really seeing you, the way he hides emotional distance behind the mask of routine, and you feel it. Of course you do, but you don't ask. Or if you do, he dodges, deflects, and you stay silent. Because deep down, you already know the answer, but you're not ready to hear it out loud. Still, you must find the courage to say, if you're not here anymore, tell me. If you're already with someone else, don't hold on to me. If your heart is somewhere else, don't keep me in a space where there's no longer room for me. Sometimes, it's not about whether he loves you. It's about whether he has the courage to be honest. And not every man does. Many would rather keep you as an option than face the discomfort of letting you go completely. So you stay. hoping, waiting, clinging to who he used to be. But that version of him is gone. And it didn't happen by accident. It was a choice. Because the moment someone starts thinking of someone else, starts feeling for someone else, starts choosing someone else, they've already begun walking away from you. And no matter how softly it's done, a departure is still a departure. You don't need a confession to know when love is gone. Even if he never says it, even if he never admits it, you don't need a confession to know you're no longer in his heart. You only need to listen to the shift in his tone, to the absence of excitement, to the way everything about you suddenly seems to irritate him. You are not the problem. You never were. He's simply no longer there. Sometimes there are no villains, only painful realities. But that doesn't mean you have to stay. In an empty story, you are not obligated to hold on to what he's already let go of. You don't have to stay loyal to a memory, because memories don't build a present, let alone a future. Stop holding on to maybe. Stop hurting yourself while waiting for explanations that will never come. Don't postpone your dignity because you're afraid to close a chapter. He may have many reasons, but none of them justify treating you like emotional leftovers. No excuse, no matter how tender it sounds, can make up for a lack of honesty. And if he has chosen someone else, then now it's time for you to choose yourself, even if it hurts, even if it feels like defeat, even if it feels like the air has been pulled from your lungs. This is not the end. It is the beginning of something new, something healthier, something that fully includes you. There are moments when things shift. You feel it, even if you can't explain it. You don't know if it was a glance, a sigh, a silence that lasted too long. You just know it's not the same anymore. It feels different. Something is in the air. And as much as you want to believe everything is still okay, it isn't. The tone of his words changes. His replies come slower. His interest fades in and out. The excuses begin to outnumber the hugs. That's your sign. Not just in what he says, but in what he no longer says. How he pulls away without moving. And then come the phrases. I'm tired. I don't want to talk right now. You're overreacting. I don't want to fight. I've got too much stress at work. And yes, sometimes that's true. But when it becomes a pattern, when there's no desire to share the joy or the struggle, when there's no curiosity about you, when your feelings feel like a burden, then he's already somewhere else, emotionally, and sometimes physically too. Because yes, many are already with another woman, but won't say it, not out of respect, but out of convenience. They want the new without letting go of the familiar. And so you become trapped in a transition, the bridge between what once was and what will never be again. I saw this happen once to a woman who wrote to me. Let me tell you her story. Her name was Clara. She was 32. She had been with Julian for 5 years. A stable relationship. They traveled, laughed, made plans. But one day, something shifted. Julian started coming home later. He stopped texting during the day, stopped wanting to video call when he traveled, and when Clara asked if something was wrong, he always said the same things. You're too sensitive. Everything's fine. I'm just tired. Please don't make a drama. So Clara began to doubt herself. She stared longer in the mirror, tried harder to make him happy, cooked his favorite meals, left him sweet little notes, invited him on dates. But he only grew colder, more distant, until one night, she saw a message flash across his phone. It was from a woman she didn't know. Just a few words, short but clear. I can't wait to see you again. Clara didn't say anything that night, but the next day, with her voice shaking, she asked him quietly, Are you with someone else? Julian paused, then said, No, but I think I need some time. I don't feel the same anymore. And there it was, the one sentence that changes everything. It doesn't say everything, but it says enough. Clara didn't scream. She didn't cry in front of him. She simply nodded and left. Later, she wrote to me. I felt shattered, but also free, because I finally understood I wasn't the one who lost something. He did. He let go of something he'll never find again. My loyalty, my love, my truth. Clara never went back. And with time, she blossomed again. And with time, she blossomed again. Wounded, yes, but with dignity. Because healing does not require the absence of pain, only the presence of self-respect. And Clara's story is not unique. It happens every day because many people lack the courage to say they no longer love, but still choose to stay, hurting in silence, pretending, withholding the truth, while their hearts drift elsewhere. To stay without love is to lie with your presence, and no one deserves to be lied to like that. No one deserves to be part of a relationship where the other person is already writing a new story, making new memories, building a future that no longer includes you. No one deserves a ghost relationship, a love that exists only in name, not in action, not in warmth, not in truth. Real love doesn't hide. It doesn't run from conversations about commitment. It doesn't retreat into silence. It doesn't mask emotional absence with polite excuses. Real love stays. It shows up. It chooses you again and again. It cares when you speak. It listens when you're hurting. It doesn't disappear when things become inconvenient. So if you're going through something similar to Clara, if the silence is louder than the words, if the smiles are forced, if the affection has dried up, then please don't silence your intuition. Don't ignore the signs. Don't bend over backwards making excuses for him. Because someone who stays out of pity doesn't love. Someone who stays out of habit is not choosing you. And someone who truly loves you does not confuse you. Love is not a riddle. Love is not a nightly puzzle you solve in your head while trying to fall asleep. Love is not a constant ache in your chest. And if it is, then ask yourself one question. Where am I in this story? If your answer is, I'm waiting for him to decide, then it's time you must decide, because you deserve more, so much more. Sometimes you don't need proof. All you need is yourself. There are moments in life when the bravest thing you can do is to stop asking, stop hoping, stop searching for hidden signs, and simply accept what has already become clear. Because when someone changes emotionally, when they're trying to pretend things are the same, there's one thing they can't fake: their eyes, the way they look at you, or stop looking at you, the way their touch becomes absent, the way they no longer listen, as if what matters to you matters at all. All of that is language, not of words, but of truth. And if you're not careful, you'll stay trapped in the chapter where you blame yourself, where you start believing that if you were only more relaxed, less emotional, less intense, maybe everything would be okay. But that's not true. Because when someone has already left emotionally, there's nothing you can do to keep the connection alive. It no longer exists. And yes, it hurts. Of course, it hurts. It hurts to realize there's no going back, that what once was will never be again. That the man who once said, "You're everything," now says those same words to someone else. And perhaps that's the most painful part. Knowing that the words he once gave you so sincerely, so convincingly, he now offers to another, as if they were weightless, as if you were just a rehearsal. But you weren't. You were not a mistake, not a stepping stone, not a temporary phase. You were real. You loved truthfully. And that is never insignificant, even if he didn't appreciate it, even if he laughed without a word, even if he's now pretending. He never felt what you know was real. None of that erases your truth, your capacity to love, your devotion, your humanity. The problem was never the love. The problem was holding on to a love that no longer breathed with you, a love that had already begun to suffocate indifference. And I know how hard it is to let go. Sometimes it hurts more to let go of an almost than a clear ending, because almost feel like a promise that just missed the mark, like a kiss that never fully landed, like a hug that stopped halfway. But you cannot survive on broken promises. You cannot build a future on absence. You cannot bloom in an emotional desert. And when he starts to use those tired phrases, I'm confused. I need to find myself. I just want to be alone for a while. You already know. He's not confused. He's already talking to someone else, already thinking of her, already investing his emotions elsewhere. That is not confusion. That is a decision. He just won't say it because he doesn't want to be responsible for your pain, because he doesn't want to face his own cowardice, because he doesn't want to give up the comfort you still offer him. And you stay there waiting, hoping he'll come back, hoping the new thing won't last. But that's self-sabotage, hoping that he'll realize what he had with you, that one day, maybe, he'll come back. That's not love. That's self-sabotage. Because if you're hoping someone returns out of exhaustion, out of regret, out of guilt, you've already accepted the role of Plan B. And that's not who you are. That's never who you were. That's never who you will be. Sometimes it's better to close the door than to sit in front of it, waiting for someone to return who has already walked away, and shut it behind them. And no, that's not pride. That's dignity. Pride wounds. Dignity protects. Dignity is the boundary that keeps you from returning to the places that broke you. It's the quiet voice inside that whispers, that's enough. You gave it your all. Now it's time to gather what's left of you and begin again. It's not your fault if he no longer chooses you. Not your fault if he prefers something new over something deep. Not your fault if he couldn't recognize the value of what he had. You did your part. You showed up with your heart wide open. You gave him truth, and that's enough. Now it's time to let go. Not so he'll come back, but so you can finally come home to yourself. So you can find your center again. So you can face forward without fear, without bitterness, without the invisible chains that keep you tethered to someone who's already emotionally gone. Because no one deserves to have their heart broken and still be expected to carry it quietly. You have the right to heal, the right to end the cycle even without all the answers, the right to move forward even if you never understand why he stopped showing up for you. And when you do, you'll see this pain wasn't your destruction. It was your transformation. There's something no one teaches you. How to let go of someone you still love. How to release something that still feels alive in you, even when it's already dead in them. And it's not because there's no love left. Sometimes love is still there, but love alone is not enough. Because to sustain a relationship, you need more than emotion. You need honesty. You need presence. You need reciprocity. You need choice. And if he's already with someone else, whether he's admitted it or not, the relationship is over. No matter how deeply you still care, you can't love for two. You can't build a future. On his absence, you can't carry the story alone. It takes immense strength to say, I love you, but I won't stay where I'm being hurt. I love you, but I won't stay where I'm no longer chosen. I love you, but I love myself more. That's not selfish. That's emotional health. That's maturity. Because if he's already gone in spirit and you feel it and still you stay, then you're placing yourself last. And no one who truly loves themselves should place themselves at the bottom of their own life. You ask, how do I move on? How do I let go of something that meant so much to me? I understand. It's not easy, but the moment will come. The moment always comes when you realize waiting hurts more than the truth. And that's when the shift begins. Not when he confesses, not when you catch him in a lie. The shift begins when you stop making excuses. When you stop saying, he's just confused, he needs time, he'll come around, and start saying, he doesn't love me like he used to. I'm no longer part of his life. He's already made his decision, even if he won't say it aloud. That's a painful moment, yes, but it's also a powerful one, because that's when something inside you wakes up. A part of you that's been quiet, afraid, hopeful, but now that part begins to rebuild, to rise, and that's where your new beginning starts. Not loudly, not with revenge, not with drama, but in silence, in stillness, from your center, from that sacred place inside you, where you no longer need him to breathe. There's a quote that captures this better than I ever could. When you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm is all about. Haruki Murakami. And this, what you're going through now. This is your storm. But it's not the end of your world. It's the beginning of your transformation. And you will get through it. Maybe with scars, but stronger, clearer, more rooted in yourself. And that's what matters. Coming back to you, to your center, to your voice. You no longer need to understand why he chose someone else. That belongs to his path, his shadow, his story. It has nothing to do with you, but with what he couldn't carry, what he didn't want to face, with the parts of himself he still lacks the courage to meet. It is not your job to heal him, not your role to wait for him, not your responsibility to convince him of your worth. Whoever doesn't see your light doesn't deserve to walk beside you. And someone who has already chosen another story is no longer part of yours. All that remains now is to look forward, not to forget, not to deny what you felt, but to honor what you gave, to close this chapter with love, without going back. Because going back would mean betraying yourself. And you've already given too much, cried too much, waited longer than you ever should have. It's time. Time to close the door. Not with anger, not with hate, but with peace. Because even what wasn't meant to last can still teach, can still free, can still heal. There comes a moment when it's no longer about him. It's about you, about what you are willing to accept, what you allow, what you carry. Because if someone starts letting go of you silently, you have the right to let go consciously. That is emotional maturity. You don't need him to say, I'm with someone else. In order to begin your healing, you just need to stop lying to yourself, because truth doesn't always arrive in words. Sometimes it comes in behavior, in emptiness, in that subtle shift you once ignored, but now can't unsee. And somewhere in the middle of all this, you will have to choose. Choose whether you'll keep waiting or take a step toward yourself, a step toward your peace. Because yes, love should bring peace, not fear, not restlessness, not sleepless nights. If you're spending your nights wondering why he no longer texts like he used to, checking his profile for clues, living in cycles of doubt, suspicion, disappointment, something is wrong. And you know it, even if you pretend not to, even if you downplay it to your friends, even if you still cling to the hope that maybe this is just a phase. But it's not. When someone is already emotionally connected to another woman while still being with you, it shows most clearly in his indifference. That feeling that there's no connection anymore, that you're speaking to someone who responds out of obligation, not desire, that he is physically present, but energetically elsewhere. And it drains you because you're trying to hold together something that no longer has a foundation, because you feel like everything depends on you, but you can't carry a relationship alone, especially not one that already ceased to exist. And yes, it hurts more than others can see, because this isn't just a normal goodbye. It's an invisible death, a silent disappearance, a leaving without a suitcase. And still, you stay, trying to save it, trying to bring him back, even though he doesn't even know if he wants to return. And that's where you lose yourself. You begin to fade. You begin to erase yourself. But no one is worth erasing yourself for. That is not love. If it costs you your self-worth, that is not love. If it steals your smile, that is not love. If it leaves you empty, healthy love supports you. It helps you bloom. It brings you back to your best self. And when that love breaks, when he's already emotionally with someone else, you feel it. You feel it in how you start forgetting who you are. You don't laugh like you used to. You don't dream like you used to. You no longer feel alive, creative, open. And that's no coincidence. Emotional pain drains you, and when you live in waiting mode, your soul begins to freeze. But you weren't born to wait. At a door, someone refuses to open. You are not here to receive a maybe, while he wavers between you and someone else. You are not a dilemma. You are not a second option. You are a whole world, a full answer. And it's time you remember that. You are a certainty for someone who is ready. Maybe today you feel powerless. Maybe you think you'll never get through this. Maybe even breathing hurts. And that's okay. Because healing isn't linear. Ending a cycle doesn't happen overnight. Letting go of love isn't a switch you can simply flip. But the day will come. The day you wake up and no longer think of him. The day you stop checking your phone, hoping he's written. The day you stop wondering who he's with. And that day won't come because he changed, but because you did. Because you woke up. Because you remember who you were. Before someone made you feel small. Before someone made you question your worth. Before you mistook absence for love. And when that moment arrives, you won't want to look back. You won't want to return to someone who doubted you, who replaced you without blinking, who lacked the courage to be honest. Because it's one thing for love to end, but it's another when respect ends. And if there's one thing you always deserve, it's respect. There's something we all struggle to accept. Not every ending requires anger. Sometimes it ends with clarity. Not every goodbye needs noise. Sometimes it just happens. You see it in his eyes. In a way he no longer seeks you. In the way he speaks to you like you're anyone. Not the chosen one. Not his partner. Just someone left behind halfway. And you, with a lump in your throat, try to understand when it changed. When you became invisible to him. When your presence became background noise. And you start to believe you did something wrong. That you weren't enough. That something in you was missing. For him to stay. But no. Sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes it's about him. Because there are people who get tired of the good, who get bored of stability, who confuse healthy love with routine, who chase after new, while never being able to hold it either. I remember Camila. She was 35. Brilliant, deep, generous. She had been with Andres for 6 years. A relationship that at first felt unshakable. She admired him, supported him. They built a home together, an apartment, a business, a life. But one day, Andres began to change. It started subtly, a delay without a message, a phone always on silent, a growing number of "I'm busy" replies. At first, Camila suspected nothing. She believed in him. She trusted him. She knew him. Or so she thought. But her body knew before her mind did. She couldn't sleep. She dreamed of losing him. She felt anxiety every time he left the house and didn't reply to her texts. Then, one night, while he slept deeply beside her, something inside her stirred. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't suspicion. It was instinct. It was intuition. She picked up his phone, and there it was, a conversation with another woman, tender messages, photos, plans, words he once said to her. Her world collapsed. She said it felt like her soul broke. But she didn't scream. She didn't make a scene. The next morning, she simply looked at him and said, "I know." He didn't deny it. He didn't explain. He just looked down. And in that silence, Camila understood everything. Not just the betrayal, but the emotional distance she had felt for so long. The indifference she had normalized. The coldness she had accepted as a phase. She once told me something I'll never forget. It didn't hurt that he was with someone else. It hurt that I lied to myself for so long, just to avoid seeing what was always obvious. In time, Camila healed. She rebuilt herself, not immediately. She had many hard nights, but one day, she woke up and didn't cry. She didn't miss him. She didn't need him. Now she lives alone, in peace. She didn't grow bitter. She didn't close her heart. She simply learned never to doubt her intuition again. She understood. If something hurts every day, it's not love. And that's what so many don't understand. True love doesn't make you beg. It doesn't put you on hold. It doesn't make you feel replaceable. Someone who truly loves you doesn't play with your wounds, doesn't play with your emotional stability, doesn't make you compete with another woman for the attention you should never have had to ask for. Because if you're already fighting for it, you've already lost. Not because you are not worthy, but because real love isn't a battlefield. It's not something you beg for, compete for, or chase. Love is a daily, conscious, clear choice. And if it's chosen someone else, don't insist. Don't wait for explanations you'll never receive. Don't chase the ghost of what once was. You don't need to win. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to fight to be loved. The only thing you need to do is turn inward. Return to yourself. Remember yourself. Because the truth is, you never have to convince someone to stay. The one who wants to stay, stays. The one who loves cares. The one who feels shows it. And the one who doesn't show it is already gone. Even if he still walks through the same door. Even if he still sleeps in the same bed. Even if he looks at you with eyes that no longer hold you. When someone no longer vibrates on your frequency, you feel it. Deep in your chest, in the way their presence feels like absence, in the way their words land without warmth. And when someone has already given themselves to another story, there's no holding on to what's already ended. But perhaps most importantly, you don't need closure from him. Closure doesn't come from the one who leaves. It comes from the one who stays. You, the one who chooses to move forward, the one who refuses to get lost. In unanswered questions, in broken promises, in the ache disguised as closeness. The one who chooses to honor her own love, her own truths, her own path. Because in the end, there's only one person who will walk with you for the rest of your life, yourself. And you deserve to walk that path with love, with dignity, with light. If any part of this echoed inside you today, if you felt a lump in your throat, if you saw yourself in this story, don't worry. That's not weakness. That's a sign you're alive, that you still feel, that your soul is awake. And a woman who is awake, even while she's hurting, is always being reborn. And when she's reborn, she no longer accepts halves. She no longer stays silent about what hurts. She no longer remains where she doesn't bloom, because now she understands her worth is non-negotiable. Never again.